But let's talk about some businesses that are under distress, what companies working in the restructuring space are seeing out there these days. For more on that, we're joined by Simon Freakley. He is the CEO at AlixPartners. Simon, thanks so much for joining the program today. I want to begin with a recent report that you guys put out looking at the restaurant space and some of the pressures that we're seeing there. And I think this number is right. It was quite alarming to me. Some 63% of full service restaurants are now distressed businesses. What is the plan there? What are the prospects like there for this space? As we all want the world to get back to normal, but that is a tremendous blow to that sector of the economy.
Miles, thanks for including me this morning. Obviously, 2020 has been an extraordinary disruption. And not to say, of course, that industries weren't being profoundly disrupted before the pandemic came along. But as you say, the restaurant space has been hit very, very hard. And of course, to state the obvious, the problem for the restaurant business is if you don't sell a meal or a drink today, it's not as if someone's going to buy 2 meals and 2 drinks tomorrow. So those revenue dollars are lost forever every day that these places are shut or compromised. So the restaurant sector, the hospitality sector, but more broadly, Miles, the consumer goods sector, the retail sectors have been profoundly disrupted. Have there been winners and losers? Yes, there have. Have people that have pivoted into strategies in the restaurant business, for instance, to say curbside pickup or delivery, have they done well? Yes, they have. But my goodness, there have been winners and losers.
Simon, Brian here. What are you telling the CEOs of these restaurant companies and these even retailers? What strategies could they employ to come out of this the other side? Probably much smaller, granted, but even just the fact that they could stay in business would probably be a big win for many companies.
Well, Brian, of course, the key, as with every situation like this, is agility, moving to action, having a clear strategy, and more importantly, executing that strategy. And so take a business like Uber, for instance. I mean, the classic Uber is down massively during the pandemic, but Uber Eats is up over 150%. So it's not as if people in the hospitality space can't find strategies that work. Many restaurants in metropolitan areas have moved to curbside pickup and much more efficient delivery mechanisms. They've found that as a strategy to cope. But those operators who haven't been fleet of foot, who haven't had a strategy, who haven't moved to action to execute it, have indeed been left behind. There'll be profound disruption in retail and hospitality, but also in retail. But, we look at retail, for instance, there have been, again, real winners. So you look at the hyper-local delivery aspect of Walmart, for instance, their ability to service people's urgent needs on a very local basis has actually driven their business, a business that had pretty much no online strategy 3 or 4 years ago, now the biggest online or second biggest online retailer in the US after Amazon. So it's not as if there aren't successful strategies, but in talking to the clients that we have every day, it's a matter of being proactive, having that strategy, more importantly, executing it with focus and pace that's keeping them on the front foot.
There's one area, Simon, it's Julie here. There's one area that's sort of the knock-on effect from some of these retail struggles that I don't know how you can strategize out of, and that has to do with real estate and the mall owners.
Right.
If their tenants are struggling, if their tenants are closing down, I mean, what do you do with that empty space? How do they navigate through this?
Julie, you're absolutely right. So if you look at the traditional department stores, for instance, the Macy's, the Lord & Taylor, the Neiman Marcus, they've really struggled because of the closure of the stores, episodic closure, but also the drastic reduction in footfall, same for the mall business. And even the discount operators, the J.C. Penney's, the Kohl's, have been suffering for the same reason. And so the winners in the retail sector are those people that have had a viable omni-channel strategy. Having an omni-channel strategy in itself is not the whole solution, because of course, even if revenues have been maintained through a swing to online, the cost of fulfilling an online order is much greater than the cost of selling an item in a bricks and mortar store. So whilst some of the retailers that have omni-channel strategies have seen revenues maintained, they've seen operating margins reduce. But you put your finger on a very important point, Julie, which is those people who are heavily reliant on bricks and mortar stores have a real challenge. Now, some, for instance, like Primark, have made a virtue of the fact they've had no online strategy. And whilst they've been closed during periods of lockdown, during which time they've had no revenue at all, they've seen a real bounce back as soon as the stores open again because of the profile of their customer base. But all boils down again to having a viable strategy and executing it well. But people who are not on the front foot, who are overly reliant on bricks and mortar and not in the discount category, I think are going to have a very, very difficult 2021.